Welcome back, HMR community. You have Coach Jen here and Coach Anneke. We wanted to come back on just to touch base, offer some support to you. And as we begin a new month, can you all believe it? It's February. Happy Groundhog's Day, by the way. If you missed it, I forget his name, but he saw his shadow. So that means 6 more weeks of winter for us. So I'm not sure who needed that update or not, but you have it on this Groundhog's Day. But we're happy to be here and so happy that many of you joined us last Thursday as we introduced our coaching team that are currently with us. And I'm happy that you're joining us tonight.
Yeah, if you guys have been attending the Facebook Lives, we've been sharing updates with you guys as soon as we have them. We know you guys want answers and we want to be as transparent as possible. Week 1, Sharon and Ryan kicked off the Facebook Live series, sharing how we ended up here and how we are working to relaunch the business. And last week, as Jen mentioned, we were able to meet the coaches that we were able to bring back, and we challenged you to start planning and shared some ideas of things to do to ensure that you keep your focus on your weight and your health front and center. So this week, we're going to take some time to discuss physical activity.
Yes, and before we do that, we want to address the questions that you have, such as, why is it taking so long to relaunch the business? Why did you start with phase 1, coach clients who were in auto delivery? And why didn't I get an invitation to return? So first, virtual coaching is only part of what we do. And many of the people in this community work or have worked with a local HMR clinic within proximity to their area. And many of those clinics have stayed open during December to February. And when HMR shut down operations and relaunched under Profile Plan, they're actually, planning to stay open or gearing up themselves to get back into business. So if you are interested in a local clinic or were active in your local clinic, check in with them because they may be in kind of a different season of getting started, but could definitely provide support either now or soon in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And second, we also had a decision to make, and that was to either wait to reopen after we had figured everything out, or start to gradually reopen, starting small and adding to that while keeping you guys as up to date as possible. And obviously we decided on the latter, knowing that you guys all want to return as soon as possible. And we definitely want to get back to supporting as many of you as we can as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And we cannot even express the words, thank you for being patient with us enough. And they absolutely are not hollow. When we all received the news that HMR was closing, the majority of the company was laid off very shortly after that. And we have been scrambling to return. So just for a little context for you guys, we had 25 people delivering coaching at the time. So back in November, when we kind of got the notice that we were shutting down and closing, we had 25 people delivering our program, coaching at the time, plus all the behind the scenes staff supporting the work that we do. So we will eventually get there, and we are so grateful for your patience as we get up and going again. And relaunching a business that was closed is much more involved than you would think, and many of us have never done this before. Closing a business and then restarting a business.
Yeah, and we wanted to express this to you all today because there is nothing more that we want to do than to address your questions as we have the answers. For instance, we've seen questions regarding HMR products on Amazon and inquiring whether or not those will be returning. And we want you guys to know that we are working to get our Amazon store back up. And again, we'll provide updates as soon as we have them. We will keep you in the loop. And for those of you who are wondering about phase 2, most people who were in phase 2 coaching when we closed will receive an email communication in the next week or so. So for those of you that applies to, definitely keep an eye out for that as well, so we can communicate those next steps for you guys and getting you back into a phase 2 coaching session, which is great news.
It is very exciting news. And we know that several phase 1 members will have an opportunity. They're going to actually get started with their coaching next week, which is really exciting. We're getting set up, we're getting going. But many of you want to take advantage of the support that our coaches provide. So this is why Anneke and I are here. So today we want to spend some time talking about one of the most important factors in your long-term weight and health management, and that's physical activity. We also understand that PA, as many of you have come to know, we abbreviate it, PA, can be one of the first things to fall out when you're pressed on time, or you have an expected or unexpected change in your routine. Kind of like the last several months with the holidays and also HMR kind of closing, and now we're gearing back up again. The truth is our lives rarely seem to get less busy, maybe just a different sort of busy, but I don't know about you all. It seems like anytime I'm waiting for it to calm down, and doesn't really ever, the busyness of that period may stop, but something new happens. And so tonight we want to use this time that you're here with us, or if you're watching this back, we want to really support you to get back on track with your physical activity. And maybe you're on a roll and you've been on a roll with your physical activity. We want to make sure that you're sharing from your own personal experience around what you've done when life has happened, when your routine changes expectedly or unexpectedly, to keep up that routine. And when we're thinking about that in your own personal experience, we can just really grow from each other. So this is to take it back just a little bit. We want to just define what physical activity is. And our broad definition, as many of you have come to be familiar with around PA, is just simply moving your body through space, getting up and moving more. We're not training to be Olympic athletes or run a marathon. We just want to move more. That's how we're going to burn more calories and really support us with our health and our weight. And this is much less limiting when you consider that any intentional movement is going to add to your overall day and also to your week.
Yeah. Like Jen said, it's pretty common for physical activity to be the first thing to go or fall out of place, whether it be a change in weather, a change in your schedule, you name it, life happens. And the reality is that physical activity is a time commitment, and it is competing for a spot on your calendar with many other things. So we wanted to come together today and discuss just some ways to get in movement despite limiting factors like weather and like time.
Right. And so one thing that we want to start with is indoor physical activity. So whether it's too hot or too cold outside, we're going to encounter weather that can limit us from getting outside. And I know many of my clients, myself included, I enjoy getting out, but when it's too hot or too cold or snowy or icy or raining, sometimes it's just not inviting to go out in those situations. Especially now that I guess the groundhog has mentioned, we have 6 more weeks of winter, and that probably means that it's getting dark still earlier, which can make it harder when the days feel shorter. And sure, we can all bundle up and walk outside, but you may not want to. So let's talk about some ideas that can get us still moving indoors when you can't get outside. And of course, open up the chat, make sure you're sharing some of the things that you're currently doing inside when the weather isn't cooperating for you. And you may get some ideas as well on some additional things that you can do.
Yeah. Please share in the chat. We'd love to hear what you guys are doing. I would say the number one best resource for indoor PA at home is YouTube. If you're looking for some variety or getting some PA indoors, you can always find a new YouTube workout. Depending on your physical activity level as well. There's walking videos, there are seated exercises, kickboxing, that's one that I really like. There's body weight exercises with no equipment, dancing, Zumba, you name it. It's almost an unlimited resource when it comes to exercise videos. And it's a great way to try new things, to get out of your comfort zone, but in the comfort of your own home to see what you enjoy. And with that, I like to remind people that just because a video is an hour or 45 minutes doesn't mean you have to do the whole thing. It's a great way to sample new exercises, even if you do have limited time. Try 10, 15 minutes of an exercise and you may like it. You may want to push further, and that's great, but just a good way to sample things indoors.
And that's such a good point, because we can always get in our own way when something is allotted, like it's an hour workout. We think, oh my gosh, I don't have time for an hour. And so you don't even try it at all. And so just sampling is a really great way. And also one thing that's nice about YouTube or doing a video, you can hit pause. So if you get breathless or you're tired or really just working to build up your endurance, you can always hit the pause button if you get too out of breath or something's going too fast, and restart it again once you have your breath. And you can really search anything. So if you have hip issues, back problems, or knee, you can be as specific in the search as you want. If you like to walk, there's a ton of walking videos that are free as long as you have that internet access. So just wanted to add a little bit there. And I know Anneke and myself have probably invested in way too many, maybe not way too many, because variety is great, but indoor equipment. And so Facebook Marketplace is a really great place to go. People selling maybe a used treadmill, an indoor bike, a rower, weights. You can get a lot of things on Facebook Marketplace. I know I personally have a step in my office. I have like a spin bike upstairs, a rower, a gazelle. So there's lots of different things that you can do with variety, and some things that you can get pretty reasonable at a reasonable price. I know several folks have come into really like the QB. It's the under the desk, basically bike, super small. You can put it anywhere. Any other additions that you have, Anneke, indoors that you've invested in?
Yeah, well, as far as indoor equipment, yeah, I really like my walking pad that I got for my standing desk in my office. I like that I can wheel it into my living room and use it at night while I'm in front of the TV. Adjustable weight sets, I've definitely recommended those. I think those are great to have in the house, whether keeping it in your office or in your living room just to get some extra movement. But you can also, there are other ways to get an indoor PA that don't require any additional equipment, right? If you have stairs in your house, you can commit to doing short bouts or longer bouts of walking the stairs. Also, just getting out, going to a mall, a big open area that's indoors where you can get some movement in. Even just continuous movement, I would say, in your home for short bouts of time. There are a lot of ways to just get in movement inside the house. It doesn't have to, be outside walking or nothing at all. Of course, you have other things like gym memberships. There are some really reasonable ones out there if that's something that you want to invest in. But, I think it's just important to kind of think outside the box and don't let, the weather outside be a deterring factor from getting in the movement. And I always like to say the more things that I have that I enjoy, the better, because you can get bored of doing anything too many times in a row. So I like to have different things that I can work into my routine to build my overall PA.
Absolutely. And you don't, if you have canned goods, you can lift canned goods or just use your own body weight. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of different things. Doing squats while you're making a shake, or, whatever it is, you can really do a lot in the comforts of your own home to burn more calories, even if it's just marching in place. And any continuous movement in your home is going to be helpful. Especially if you're limited, maybe you don't feel comfortable to get outside. I've had several folks who just due to balance, they feel like they're going to fall. And so they don't want to get out. So just walking further in your house can be a great way to get started. And it just really supports us. Now, I know continuous movement, we talked about that, but doing short bouts at a time. 5-10 minute bouts, they will add up over the course of the day. And that really leads us into our second strategy to help support you to get in more physical activity. And just want to acknowledge that I know last week we talked a lot about some different strategies about getting back on track, calories in. We had some physical activity strategies kind of thrown in there, but we want to acknowledge that, you may need to get back on track with your physical activity. So make sure that you're jotting down anything that you're hearing that sounds like a really good idea. Anneke, I'm seeing lots of folks posting about some of the things that they're doing. I love that Dave's going to try a YouTube video. There's several different workout programs out there. I know somebody mentioned Beachbody, there's Daily Burn, there's all kinds of different things that you can really stream workout programs within your own home. So keep those coming in the comments, and maybe you're getting reminded of something that you need to do. So commit to it in there, write it down. So you ready to take us into our second strategy for the night?
Yeah, I love that. I love that people are willing to take on some new things. I did want to, before we shift to the next subject, I did want to share one of my favorite YouTube videos I found when I actually had a broken toe a couple years ago. I found a low intensity interval training, which we've all heard of high intensity interval training. I found a low intensity interval training that didn't have me jumping up and down like your typical HIIT, but it was really a great workout, and it's good if you just want to get in some indoor cardio. It's a little bit higher intensity, but you don't want to be getting up and down off the ground. So that's my quick plug for that one. I love it. I should bring that back in this week. So the second strategy that we wanted to discuss tonight is short bouts and multiple bouts of physical activity. And we talk about that a lot. We think it's so important when it comes to building your physical activity. But when our schedule changes or get busier, like we mentioned, it's normal for some PA routines to fall out of place if we don't prioritize or if we don't plan for it. Maybe you don't have the hour every night that you used to, and that's okay. And when you reframe your thinking from it has to be 45 minutes or an hour for it to count, right? It frees up a lot of smaller chunks of time in your day to get in movement. Actually, when I've looked back at, my own tracking in the app, some of my highest PA days are days where I had several shorter bouts of exercise over the course of the day, because it does add up. So while we are discussing ways that you can consider to add short bouts or multiple bouts into your routine, we really want you guys to start sharing in the chat, generating some ideas for each other where you fit short bouts into your schedule, throughout the week or throughout the day. So Jen, why don't you share our first tip?
Yeah, I know many of us are getting back into an office setting. And so sometimes we can just get busy into our workday and time can pass. And plugging in 5 to 10 minute bouts of walking or movement multiple times in the day can absolutely add up. And even putting it in your Outlook calendar so you get that pop-up reminder. Maybe if you have meetings with folks, you can walk and do the meeting. If you need to get something off the copier or maybe you're on the third floor and there's a restroom on the second or the first floor. You could go to the bathroom and take the stairs. So there's ways that you can incorporate in your office if you're in that office setting. Lunch break, maybe taking a little bit to eat your lunch, of course, but then walking as part of that as well can really, I feel like it energizes you during the workday.
Absolutely. It's almost like a little brain break, if you will. Yeah, and so definitely if you're in an office setting, getting up, moving around, but also if you work from home, personally, what I find really helpful is to have kind of a mile loop in my neighborhood that I know exactly if I do that, I'm going to get a mile walk in. But even having a 10-minute loop or just getting out around the block, 2 or 3 times a day over the course of the day can really add up. And one tip I would say around that is to stay suited up, meaning, having your sneakers on, maybe your workout pants on, so that when time does allow, you can get in those short bursts of movement without really having to think about it. You can just get up and go. So that's kind of my tip, just makes it a little bit easier in the moment. Also, again, like I mentioned earlier, having some weights or some kind of exercise equipment in front of your TV or in your office, in your living area, to get in short bouts of movement, during the day or during the evening, where maybe you'd be sitting on the couch watching TV. You can get up and say, okay, let me do just 10 minutes of something while I'm watching the show. It's not going to distract from what you're doing and might actually make you do longer than if you wouldn't have started at all.
Right. Yeah. And continue to share some of the things that you do to incorporate short bouts when you get them in. Kate mentions her kids are in many activities, and so she gets to do short bouts while they're at dance practice or basketball instead of sitting on the bleachers. I oftentimes invite another parent to walk with me instead of just sitting or feeling like, oh, I hope they don't think I'm rude because I'm just out and about walking. Invite them to come along, or maybe invite them the next time to bring their tennis shoes to walk with you. And so here are a couple of other strategies that you can, in your day, incorporate these 5 to 10 minute short bouts. So consider maybe before you start your workday, right after could be a good transitioning from work to home life, maybe even before grocery shopping, those types of things. And myself personally, I shoot for 60 to 90 minutes a day. I can't do 60 to 90 minutes at one time consistently every day. I know, Anneke, we were talking about this earlier. I tend, when I get home from dropping off the boys from school and before I start my workday, do a 30-minute stint of something on the bike or maybe a video. And then I try to do another 30 minutes, either video workout if I'm doing a specific program, either after work in the evening sometime. And then I kind of put in little pockets of walking. So it's 60 to 90 minutes, but it's spread throughout my whole entire day instead of trying to do an hour. Because honestly, sometimes when I get ready to do an hour and I'm not feeling it, then I end up doing nothing at all. But then if I know, oh, it's just 30 minutes, I get started and then it's done before I even know it. And so any other ideas, Anneke, with how to incorporate short bouts? Let me just see if anybody is commenting. Yeah. So Tracy agrees, shooting for a shorter amount of time really helps her to get started.
One of my favorite hidden times to get in a little extra short bout is sometimes when I'm cooking. You might set the air fryer for 10 minutes, or you might be cooking something that's going to take a few minutes. And you might just typically be sitting on the couch or looking at your phone or doing something else. So I've sometimes, used that 5 or 10 minutes that I'm waiting to just, walk around my house or do some squats or do something to get in that extra movement. So, just really, I think at the end of the day, just looking for those shorter amounts of time in your schedule where you can sneak in exercise really can increase your overall movement for the day or for the week when you when you plug it in your app, when it all adds up.
It may really surprise you. And I have to tell you, one thing that my family, my husband and my boys think I'm absolutely crazy when they see me doing this. But if I have 10, 15 minutes, our laundry, our washer and dryer are in the basement. So if I have the time, if I have, 15, 20 minutes or so, I will take one piece out of the dryer and take it upstairs, put it away, go back down, get another piece, put it up. So some of you may be thinking, holy cow, but it's a really great way when you're doing something that you have to do anyway, laundry, but plug in some physical activity. So that's another way to kind of incorporate it.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, so we want to challenge you guys actually to look for somewhere in your day tomorrow to plug in, a short bout of movement, 5 to 10 minutes extra that you wouldn't normally do as kind of a next step here if you would like. But I did want to take a moment to also talk about record keeping with your physical activity. That can really go a long way in kind of pushing yourself around that behavior. And one of my favorite tools to track my physical activity progress, and for those of you that have been in group with me, you probably already know this, but I love using the goals tab in the app, especially if I want to push myself with PA calories for the week. And I really like that it allows me to track the percentage of total progress daily and kind of see the graph move. But I also like to use it to kind of set some midweek goals. So, if my data week starts on a Monday, I might say by the end of Thursday, the end of my 4th day of the week, I want to be at a certain percentage of my goal. That way I can see where I'm at halfway through the week and I can readjust what does the last 3 days of my week need to look like in order for me to reach that goal. It's a great self-management tool, I think, because personally, I don't think there's anything more annoying to me than getting to the end of the week, looking at my summary and realizing that I've missed my goal by, 100 calories or something so small in the grand scheme of things.
Right. Yeah. And one thing that I use that really helps personally along the lines of kind of tracking your goals, getting in your records, is planning in my physical activity into my calendar. So it physically goes into my calendar and my Outlook calendar, just like any other appointment, because more times than not, I'm not going to miss an appointment if it's wrote down. And I have to say, I am notorious. If I don't do this, I will keep it up in the air, put it off till the end of the day. And more times than I am happy to admit, it gets pushed to the next day or the next day because we get too tired at the end of the day and we can get in our heads more that way. So putting it in a calendar, writing it in stone, so that you can incorporate more small bouts, but then it's more likely to happen because you have done kind of the legwork behind to be able to do that. And so as we've been discussing things that we can do to get ourselves moving again, if you maybe haven't, or maybe exploring more ways to be active, we want to acknowledge that the best form of physical activity is one that you're going to do, that you can commit to and get behind, because consistency is really important. And I know I've done it myself. I'm guilty of shooting for the moon, shooting for these really ambitious goals. And then they don't happen because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to do 90 minutes today. I'm not going to do, it just was too lofty. So really commit to something that you can celebrate and take time to celebrate those small victories and really do your best not to compare. I know we have a great Facebook community. We see a lot of people rocking with their physical activity, Rachel with her running, all kinds of things. Try not to compare yourself to someone else in their journey with where they are. Only compete with yourself and what you did either the day before or the week before. If you increased your number of days that you walked, or maybe you tried a different type of physical activity or added more minutes than you did the day or the week before, this is time to really celebrate that. And then look to maybe increase it the next day or the next week and celebrate that. And before you know it, you're really building up a lot with your physical activity. So don't necessarily, feel like the only time to celebrate is if you hit this huge 2,000 goal or 3,000 goal. Get moving, and increase it and do more than what you were doing.
Yeah, great point, Jen. So I hope you guys have made note of anything that you want to bring into your plans tomorrow or this weekend, or maybe even tonight. And I just wanted to also give you guys a quick reminder that under the articles section of the HMR program website, it's a great resource for, physical activity support. We have getting more active section where you can look at lots of different articles that might support you around that area if you are looking for additional resources around physical activity.
Okay, and also some great perspective too. Lots of great articles in there. So don't forget about all the resources that we have on our website to support you, as well as joining us on these events. And we want to thank each of you for joining us, rewatching it after the fact. We hope this episode was helpful and inspired you to get moving this week. We do hope that you join us next week. We are going to be discussing some strategies, recipes to get you through a challenging event. This is an important one. We have Super Bowl coming up, Valentine's Day, and we want to make sure you have all the support that you need going into a tough week, potentially for many of us. If you're unable to join us live, you can always find the recording if you're on the HMR program Facebook page. You can find it under the videos tab, or if you're in our close community, it's always going to be in the featured kind of section at the top. So those are several places that you can rewatch or watch for the first time if you do happen to not be able to join us live. We hope you join us next week. Have a wonderful night. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.